For the past 12 months, an epic battle about animal rights and the future of science has been fought on the streets of Oxford. On one side, activists are hell-bent on preventing the university from building an animal laboratory.
Every brick, every pane of glass, every bolt, nut, screw, piece of wire that goes in there will be contested or be fought over, because the time has come for fighting, not talking. If it takes running battles on the street of Oxford, then that's what it takes. But whatever it takes, we have to do it!
Many in the university are intimidated. But one scientist is prepared to stand up. Tipu Aziz is a brain surgeon who experiments on monkeys.
Are you not scared for your life?
Yeah, but there's sometimes things you have to do.
In the middle of this battle are patients like 13-year-old Sean Gardner. Without an operation developed on monkeys, Sean faces a life of terrible disability. Does the benefit to the patients justify the harm to the animals? Or does the harm to the animals justify the tactics of the campaigners? And over the next 12 months, in the face of a vitriolic campaign, will the lab actually be built? The sleepy city of Oxford is an unlikely place for a street fight. But it's the home of the proposed building. On the 30th of November 2005, building work restarts after an 18-month gap. Hours after the builders arrive, protesters turn up.
Stop the Oxford Animal Lab! Stop the Oxford Animal Lab! Stop the Oxford Animal Lab! Stop the Oxford Animal Lab!
As the conflict between the animal rights movement and the scientists has unfolded during the past year, I've been watching from a ringside seat. I want to understand the deep passions that drive both sides, to see inside the animal labs, to find out if animal experimentation works, and even if it does, if it's ethical.
Can everyone hear me? Just got something to say. Yesterday morning, the work started on the site, and I want to tell Oxford University, Thames Valley Police, and everyone else, you have got one hell of a fight on your hands. So I serve notice on you now, Oxford University. Beware, the next stage of the battle has only just started, and we will not give in until we've defeated you.
Mel Broughton is the leader of the Speak campaign, a group dedicated to wiping out animal experimentation in Britain. His command centre is a modest bedsit in Northampton, where he lives with his dog Bella. He's invited me here to explain the reason why he's so passionately committed to stopping the lab.
I think it's important that people see the reality of animal research, because all too often the vivisection industry, the Home Office paint a picture that it's all very nice, it's all very clean, there's no suffering involved, there's no pain involved, there's no stress, the animals are perfectly happy. Images like these show the reality, and the reality is that for these animals, it's a living hell. You can't put it any other way.
These pictures were taken undercover in a Cambridge laboratory.
We're not talking about China here or some far-flung country where we're told there are no regulations and the animals suffer. This is going on now in the UK.
It's not hard to understand anyone's revulsion to images like these. But unlike most people, Mel is determined to do something about them.
If you are going to take the money for building a centre where that kind of thing goes on, where people are allowed to do that to animals, to sentient, thinking, feeling creatures, and expect me to politely ask you to stop, then you can think again. Because at the end of the day, I am going to intimidate you.
Intimidating the builders takes the form of a constant stream of noise.
Oxford University, this is just the start.
We're not getting out of the way.
This is just the start. We will never back down. This campaign's going to keep coming back time and time again until you stop abusing animals, until you stop trying to build another animal torture centre. Get used to this, Oxford University. Your troubles have only just started.
This is not a new battle. It began in the spring of 2004 when Oxford University started work on the £18 million animal experimentation laboratory. Threats were issued against the contractors in the name of the Animal Liberation Front. Premises were broken into, and hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of damage were caused to vehicles, machinery, site offices and equipment. The share price of the building contractors plummeted, and soon all work was stopped on the building. It was a victory for the animal rights movement. For 18 months, the building lay dormant, a symbol of the power of direct action. Now that building work has begun again, the university is prepared. The lab looks more like a military training exercise than a building site. And roles have been reversed. It's the builders rather than the activists who enter and leave the site secretly and wear balaclavas.
Hey, come on, come on!
The university and the police are hiding the contractor's identity so that their shareholders cannot be targeted. As a result, are not allowed to get onto the site or interview the workers.
I can be quite clear about this. Someone's going to tell us who they are. We will find out. So them wearing balaclavas isn't going to make any difference. It's just going to make people even more angry.
The Speak campaign claim that this is legitimate protest. But not everybody agrees.
I would say that it is a form of terrorism. In fact, I would call animal rights extremists terrorists, the way they have created this reign of terror in this country, where scientists are afraid to speak out, to educate the public. And I think it is our job now to make a stand, not just for the laboratory, but for the return of democracy in the UK.
Tipu Aziz is a brain surgeon and a professor at Oxford University. The Speak campaign calls him an animal torturer. Professor Aziz experiments on monkeys in the university in order to develop treatments for Parkinson's disease and other movement disorders. He's one of the few scientists prepared to speak out. Why, Tipu, why do you think animal experimentation is so important?
Well, you see, I don't think there's an issue to that. I don't even think that there is a debate on that, because every medical therapy that exists today has come out of animal research, whether it's the tablets you buy in a pharmacist, or whether the major heart surgery they undergo, or the brain implants I do. All of it has come out of animal research.
Tipu's outspoken support for animal experimentation has made him a target. A website has placed him on a hit list for elimination.
Are you not scared for your life?
Yeah, but there's sometimes things you have to do. I mean, it's not animal research itself that seems important to me, which it is. It's my life. But I'm a first-generation immigrant from a third world, and Britain stood up as a great symbol of democracy. And I think this is a travesty of it, the situation we are in, that people are frightened to express their ideas in a free society or discuss the work they do. And that is as important to me as animal research.
The reason that most scientists are scared is that for 30 years, extreme parts of the animal rights movement have been fighting battles like this. In the 1980s, firebombs were planted in department stores which sold fur. The Animal Liberation Front gained public sympathy when it released cats and dogs from breeding farms. But by 1990, it was human beings involved in animal experimentation who were being targeted.
There on a table was a large cardboard tube. So I took it into the security services at the university the next morning and just handed it over to them. And they called me back later in the morning and said, well, you know, the police have x-rayed it and actually it has a bomb in it, 1/2 pound of explosive, and it's got metal in it. It turned out that those were needles, and the subsequent letters that I got said that they were needles that contained HIV-infected blood. Would have gone off if the plugs had been pulled out at the end. I mean, the police said it was a pretty sophisticated and certainly lethal device.
However, not all the bombs were caught before they exploded. A child was caught in the shrapnel from one. Although the campaigners had achieved some of their aims, the mainstream press had turned against them, portraying them as psychopathic terrorists who put the life of a rat above that of a human child. In the last 5 years, the tactics have changed. Now activists target secondary suppliers and small investors. They've succeeded in closing down breeding farms, and most notoriously, they dug up the body of the mother-in-law of a guinea pig farmer.
Scum! 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 Scum!
No matter how threatening they appear, Speak claims that unlike the Animal Liberation Front, they will stick to lawful protest.
Scum! Scum! That's SCUM in case you can't spell.
But within its ranks are at least some who have been prepared to break the law. Brendan McNally was imprisoned in the 1980s for running a bomb-making factory in his Sheffield flat. John Curtin was imprisoned for blackmail, attempting to dig up a body, and violent disorder. And Mel Broughton himself, the leader of the campaign, has served 3 years inside.
I got arrested in possession of firebombs and firebomb-making material.
What are you intending to do with it?
Oh, you know, I'll say quite openly that I had every intention of using them. I did, you know, and I've said all along, and I'll be quite clear about this. I've got no regrets, none whatsoever. You know, I have no regrets about being involved. I have no regrets about being involved in the ANF. I have no regrets about what happened when I was arrested. And you know, had I not been stopped then, then I would have done. Exactly, because, well, again, you know, that it's insignificant. It doesn't matter. You know, the fact was it didn't happen, and I was stopped from doing it. But what I'm saying is that I would have done.
Beyond the shouting is an ethical question as to whether it is right or effective to use animals in research. In the next few months, I'll not be able to judge the whole range of animal research, so I want to concentrate just on the experiments that Tipu Aziz and his colleagues carry out for movement disorders. Professor Aziz thinks the strongest arguments come from seeing the benefits.
If you don't see the patients, it would be very hard to put a context to why I feel so strongly about animal research. You take someone who's bound to a wheelchair, unable to move or look after themselves, and then suddenly they have surgery based on conclusions drawn from my primate research, and suddenly they're up again. They're restored to human dignity. And you see, to see that side is very important, because the animal rights extremists will have you see scientists as people who torture animals. They don't give you the context.
What's your name?
Sean.
Where do you live?
Well, we're moving.
6 years ago, Sean Gardner's body began to go wrong.
It started when he was 7. Then by the age of 7.5, 8, his movement, his walking, he was walking with a small kind of twist.
The diagnosis was a rare movement disorder called dystonia.
I couldn't believe it at all. I always thought that it would get corrected, that I'm going to wake up one morning and everything's going to be back to normal, but just didn't work out like that.
Now Sean can hardly use any of his muscles. His mind is in full working order, but he can't even control his fingers to play computer games. He can only watch his brother.
To hear the kids outside playing, knowing that he can't do that, yeah, it's pretty bad.
In a few weeks' time, Sean will undergo a surgical technique that was partly developed using monkeys. It gives Sean's mum a special perspective on animal experimentation.
And what do you think about the idea that scientists do experiments on animals?
I feel it's a shame that it has to be done in animals, but if it was your kid, if it was your own kid, and you have got something against using animals or whatever, when that day comes and you experience what Sean's went through, then, and there is any chance of getting an operation due to tests on animals, then yeah, I do agree with it.